Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the McConnor Man at YouTube with another model review. Today we'll be doing a paint test of the new Tamiya lacquers that have just landed this year 2018, and we've got a few test pieces that we'll be doing our usual lacquer tests that we've done so many times on the channel. We'll get a colour test of the white, the grey and the dark grey on primed surfaces. Look at the intensity and how nice the colours are. We're also going to do a test on the white light pigment, how dense it is from a white, grey primer, black surface, probably 1 or 2 coats. And lastly, after about 20 minutes, half an hour of drying, we'll apply some tape, Tamiya tape, and see if it adheres well to the surface and doesn't lift. Now, what I've been told by people who have already tested it and experimented, it's more or less the same as the Tamiya rattle cans, which do produce a very nice finish. It's got a good range of colours. It's just nice to finally have it through an airbrush, and if they expand to their whole acrylic pigment range in lacquers, we could have access to some colours that are not available by Mr. Hobby yet. So let the tests commence, and we'll be spraying it all through a standard airbrush. So opening it immediately, the smell is very mild, not too strong. I'm going to add a 8mm stainless steel ball bearing to allow the pigments to be mixed sufficiently. We'll be using standard premium lacquer thinner, which already has a bit of retardant in it, and not the proper branded stuff. So we'll see how smooth we go. Probably not seen in the cut, but we've almost got a pearlescent slight sheen in the bubbles. Directly applied, it's a satinish finish over 3 coats. Looks very bright, vibrant. Dry to the touch in approximately 20 seconds. So we've sprayed these 3 colours onto these 3 pieces. They're quite vibrant, they're quite nice. And what I find interesting is each bottle is labelled with their particular colour, Imperial, Japanese, navy grey and whatnot. So you would imagine that the finish and whatnot would be representative of the item that it is being painted. And if you are into the military ship scene, and the first initial release of colours is very navy orientated, this would be ideal that you could just buy the jar to which ship or series of ships that you are painting. For a flat white, that has a bit of a sheen, so this is very disappointing. It is somewhat resistant to scratching and wearing and touching, approximately 3 to 5 minutes after drying. Moving on to pigment density, this one is a tad disappointing. We can see from the white plastic to the far left, the paint is sitting on top of that. Going into primer, we're getting into a light grey territory, and over where the black end is, you can see that that colour is just bleeding through. As per the test video, we only did about 3 to 4 tests at a thinning ratio of 50-50. Now the paint is pretty translucent, it is a little thin. You could almost, probably if the needle's thick enough, put it in 1:1. I would always recommend thinning. But yeah, it's not a solid white whatsoever. Something with more zinc in it, or SMS, Guy Note is probably a lot better. Though Mr. Colour does have their base white and white with more zinc in it as well. So this is a colour I would not employ in my collection of Tamiya Lacquers, though they do have their own white primer, which would be a far more thicker consistency and would be better value for money. 20-minute point has passed since application of the last piece. We've put Tamiya tape and we are just about to spray a different lacquer on top, and we'll peel it back a little after that. The most agonizing element to any video or build is removing the mask, and it comes off quite nicely. There's no tearing, no lifting, very smooth. It does have a fair amount of stick and adhesion, so there's nothing really to worry about that. The finish isn't ruined or blotchy or anything, so it's down to the very surface, and the texture is held. So in that regards, that's all fine. It had about more than an hour to dry. I was cleaning out my airbrush and allowed it to go further than expected. Time did escape me. My feelings are mixed. It is a tad thin. The pigment density is far too light, and the flat white is overly glossy. Though the two greys, the military colours, and their finishes are really nice, and they go quite well. I like the colours. They apply well enough to any other lacquer. I am not going to pick up the whole line or use it as a new form of spraying my models. I still prefer the main brands that I'm sticking to, being SMS, Mr. Colour, Guy Note. Though utilising some colours, especially the military stuff, on things like tanks, ships, that sort of stuff. A couple of things that filled the gaps in the rest of my lines, I'm very happy with. I would probably grab a couple and utilise a finish to fix where it doesn't do as well. This concludes my review on the Tamiya paints. Not too bad if it's the only lacquers you do have access to. More or less good enough. Thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, stay tuned for further content. We upload at least once a week. Look in the description section for sources and more links. We have a Facebook page where we do updates, work in progresses, and all sorts of interesting things that are found on the internet to be shared with everyone else. And shall catch you guys next time. Stay tuned. Always looking at comments, always happy to answer anything in the form of a question, and if you've got requests, I'm more than happy to consider.